The traditional binary for males unfold as they get older, asking themselves, what does masculinity mean? The media tends to portray men in certain ways. In this aspect, it's violence. Laura J. Friedlander, Jennifer A. Connolly, Deborah J. Pepler, and Wendy M. Craig create an article called Extensiveness and Persistence of Aggressive Media Exposure as Longitudinal Risk Factors for Teen Dating Violence. And their objective in this article is to determine whether adolescents' use of aggressive media is a risk for dating violence victimization and perpetration, considering extensiveness across media types such as TV shows, movies, music, magazines, and the internet. They also state that adolescence is an important developmental period, and I definitely agree with that statement, since that is the time teens start to come into their own realization as to who they are and what they'll represent. Also, like adulthood, they will be receiving an extensive amount of performance reviews pertaining to their gender stories. Some might expect them to perform a certain gender setting due to their sex. This video's purpose is not to stereotype men and portray them as being the only perpetrators of violence, because other sexes commit violent crimes as well. It's just a matter of being underreported. This video's intention is to shed light on why there are so many perceived notions of men being violent or aggressive, and hopefully children can be educated on this matter by their parents or other adults that they might encounter in their life, so the media doesn't do the educating for them. And that is why this video is about the underlying causes of perceived male violence. I decided to go into the field and interview students at the University of West Florida to get their opinions and experiences on the topic. The first question I asked was, why do they feel as though the media tends to continuously portray men as being violent? These were their answers.
Typically, traditionally, men usually play sports, which are more aggressive type behaviors, and I think those type of behaviors are also celebrated in men more than in women. So I have a daughter, and she's like, "This little girl hit me at school." I'm like, "Well, you should try to be friends with her and try to be nice to her." And of course, my daughter's dad is like, "Hit her back, just hit her back, she'll stop." So I think that's kind of something that society did.
I think that's a cultural thing. When you grow up, you have men who are subject to media, subject to other men saying, "Suck it up, be a man, don't be a pushover." And in every form of entertainment, from cartoons to movies to regular television, the manly man is usually the brawn guy who doesn't take anything from anybody, who's quick to solve a problem with his fist. So that gets into somebody's psyche, and it's like, this is what it means to be a man. Take things by force, or if it don't go my way, fix it by force. So that's what happens.
Okay.
I believe it's because of the violence that they see on TV, and that the parents will get the children these M-rated games for them for birthday gifts or Christmas, like Call of Duty. They think it's cool, and then they're gonna act that out, and they grow up with that through life, and they think it's all right.
Maybe because they're taught from an early age to be dominant, to, be protecting their family. So possibly in the mix with learning to protect those around you and those that you love, they become more violent than others.
Something that I found interesting was that the more men I interviewed, the more answers I got that testosterone was the main cause of men being perceived to be more violent than others. Wall Street Journal technology columnist Christopher Mims makes an article in the Scientific American magazine called "Strange But True, Testosterone Alone Does Not Cause Violence." In this article, he states that castration experiments demonstrate that testosterone is necessary for violence, but other research has shown that testosterone is not, on its own, sufficient. In this way, testosterone is less a perpetrator and more an accomplice, one that's sometimes not too far from the scene of the crime. The other question that I asked was specifically geared towards the young men of the UWF campus. The question was, what were you taught about violence as a young boy? Many of the answers being, don't hit girls.
From my parents, it was never start trouble, but defend yourself. And I remember always growing up and like even if it was an altercation with my sister, like don't hit your sister. And he'll tell my sisters, but don't provoke a man. You know what I'm saying? And so it was always, respect everybody. Don't let nobody hit you. So protect yourself. But it was never be the one to initiate violence. So that's what I learned from my parents. Don't be the starter. But sometimes some situations come about in life where you have to protect yourself. And I can't blame somebody for protecting themselves.
Sometimes necessary, depending on the situation.
I mean, obviously, you're never supposed to hit women. All the standard things between, my parents and school. Not get in a fight unless you really, really have to. And I don't think I got any extra special, different treatment than any other young kid.
Yeah. Okay. What I gathered from these interviews is that men are supposed to be independent and stable, also while being physically capable of protecting their family and ensuring that that is sought out. I then asked students to reflect back to a time and describe an incident where violence was praised, and this was aimed toward all sexes.
You mean like your boyfriend getting in a bar fight for you and that being really attractive to you?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, see?
Yeah. Yeah, but it was really nice. Like, it was a big brawl. Like, there were 12 guys, and there was, my boyfriend that I had been dating not for a very long time, and his friends. Anyway, they just all, got together and beat the shit out of each other. But it was nice. It was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, so it was like a manly kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so turned you on. So.
And afterwards, they're all bleeding and in the
Yeah,
hospital.
it was that feeling of protectiveness.
I remember hearing stories of my dad and his friends, so in the military, and they would it was like, oh, I beat up these many people or something like that, but not really personally.
Okay.
I would have to go with fight test school. So basically, if anybody started something, then our job, I want to say our job, our basically first instinct was to fight back, to protect our territory, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Personally, but I guess again, TV shows, movies you watch where the bad guy gets his butt kicked. Oh, good job.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, some kid is acting up and some other kid beats him up. Everybody gives him a high five, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you fought somebody and I remember one time in high school, this one guy was being a real huge prick and this other guy fought him and he beat him to a pulp and everybody was kind of pissed at him. It's yeah, the other guy was being a dick, but punishment didn't really deserve or fit the crime, sort of thing. So.
Kirsten Eden and Bo Nilsson's Men's Violence, Narratives of Men Attending Anti-Violence Programs in Sweden, conducts 10 interviews with men who had attended anti-violence programs within the Swedish Probation Service. The overall aim was to analyze gendered identity constructions and the narratives of men attending the programs, how men articulate the course of violent events, and what way they talk about themselves and the programs. According to their results, men defended themselves by making excuses, explanations, and victim positions. Furthermore, the men's gendered identity constructions collided with the program's ambitions of changing men's conceptions and behaviors. The last question that I asked during these interviews was, in their opinion, how could we better educate boys on violence?
I think it definitely can be changed. I think people need to just be more open with it instead of being oh, you're a boy, this is what you're supposed to be, and letting it pass you and do the same thing, you're not supposed to do this. Teach it when you're young.
Yeah.
Probably having some sort of classes or actually having the parents talk to them more, because that's where I learned from. If you have caring parents, then that's always a plus, but some people aren't lucky enough to have them, so probably have some type of community or church or whatnot to actually instill in the youth today about what's right and what's wrong.
I think there could be a bit more focus on the show. Because, if you look at kids' shows, it's all about, fighting the bad guy or whatever, which is fine. I guess it's cool. But, showing that it's not always the answer could be a good thing.
of course, I believe that you can better educate guys because growing up, especially in this society, you have to fight against what society says and figure out and seek truth for yourself. And when you look at mainstream media, they always show the extreme cases. So whenever you're subject to that all the time, every time a situation comes up, you go to the extreme case. And so sometimes you gotta teach guys how to rationalize, like, hey, sometimes you can talk your way out of this situation. Sometimes you may have to use a little force, but always think before you do. And I think that if we teach them that, like think before you do and have respect for everyone, then we can start to see a change in the right direction. And so that means we as a society, both men and women, have to challenge everything. We have to, when we see commercials that promote negativity or violence, we have to say, hey, we don't like that commercial. Just like the same way we feel about, like, if somebody's trying to sell beer and they have a woman in a bikini, that has nothing to do with alcohol, but we promote sex with alcohol. So over the years, guys confuse alcohol with sex, and that's rape. So we have to say, hey, this violence does not go for this situation. It has nothing to do with this situation. Teach them how to identify, like, hey, this has nothing to do with violence. You need to focus on blah, 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 blah. So I think we can start to see a change, and we each take individual responsibility for educating everyone, because we're not putting this world for ourselves. We're here for everyone. So.
Right. Okay, so Charlotte Lampsasky and Joy S. Chatterjee create a research article called Masculinity Matters, using entertainment education to engage men in ending violence against women in India. In this article, R.W. Connell's notion of hegemonic masculinity is used to examine the role of gender norms, male gender norms, in perpetuating violence against women. The researchers discuss the implications for entertainment education (EE) programs that seek to promote gender equality by modeling alternative forms of masculinity and sparking critical dialogue about gender equitable masculine norms. And I just want to say that this article basically shows that there are programs that are being started to educate men on violence. Not saying that they're the only sex that should be educated. Women should be educated too. It should start with young children that are educated, because we implicate the traditional gender binary in ourselves from a young age, and we reject our own gender stories that we tend to create because of the many negative reviews that we get for our performance. And so I believe that if programs like these start to reach the nation and we're educating everyone, not just men, then we could become a better nation and become better recognizable of ourselves. And in conclusion, we could end this perceived notion of male violence, and we can understand that what the media portrays is not actually the truth. We need to seek the truth ourselves. Alright, so I'm Antoinette Odom, and thanks for watching my video.